Station of the Arizona Cardinals. Power Talk 1210. KEVT AM Salrito, Tucson.
This is the Blaze Radio News. I'm Mike Craig. The congressional investigation into the IRS just got a much-needed boost.
Some 30,000 emails sent by former IRS employee Lois Lerner recovered by the IRS Inspector General 5 months after they were deemed lost forever. The missing emails covering a 2-year period when Lois Lerner headed the IRS's Exempt Organizations Division. Committees in both the House and the Senate believe the emails may show a joint effort between the Obama White House and the IRS to specifically target conservative groups seeking tax exemption. I'm Chris Vermillion, The Blaze News.
The U.S. will play a larger role in Afghanistan next year. The New York Times reports President Obama signs a secret order authorizing a direct combat role for American troops. Back in May, Obama said the remaining 9,800 American troops would focus on training Afghan forces and hunting down small al-Qaeda cells. This is news on the Blaze Radio Network.
On a mission given to me by Woody Shaw, Sunship, Dizzy, and John Kahn, dedicated to pursuing a piece of our cultural heritage through interviews with my music heroes, this is The Jake Feinberg Show. Welcome everybody inside, high above the Parisi Palace at 2919 East Broadway. This is The Jake Feinberg Show. Thank you so much for making us part of your day today. Runaway Bay, you say, sounds like a gong with a ghost of Marcus Garvey and the chants of the Sugar Shakers. The drum is a language all of its own. The rhythms on the 1-3 instead of the 2-4 set reggae apart as a modern music, be it ska, calypso, dub, or rocksteady. My guest today is from Jamaica and was part of the regional music of that island with the Bush Doctor Peter Tosh, brother Bob Marley, Monty Alexander, Sly and Robbie, and Ernest Rangelin, keeping the sounds of diaspora within the new bass drum beat. My guest is a bad cat, so he came to the States and established himself as a go-to percussionist for poets like Gil Scott Heron, speaking of the oppressed and B-movie operation that was happening stateside. The magic remains in the music when those with strong rudiments can leave their physical body to create transcendent music that keeps me together. Brother Larry McDonald, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Thank you, Jake. I keep looking around to see who it is you're talking about with all those encomiums and whatever.
I wrote something in my other notes, and I just want to be clear. My guest today is in the same master drumming discussion as Ayrton Moriera, Armando Peraza, Candido, Zakir Hussein, and on and on and on. So bless you, my brother. Thank you for making that. It's such an honor to talk to you, man.
That's pretty august company. Thanks, Jake. I want to tell you, I deliberately didn't do a lot of research on you, and about 12:30 today I said maybe I should look at something. And so I Googled it, and the first thing I turned on, I'm listening to it, and you're saying Big Black flaked on you on a show.
What? Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
And I'm saying it must be some portentous or something, because Big Black was pretty much my main influence in this thing. So
no, we're gonna get. I must tell you, Larry. Thank you, by the way, for doing a little bit of research. But it's okay. I go in kind of blind myself. But when I read that your influence was one of the major influences was Danny Ray, it warmed my heart, because that cat is is a legend, and we'll break it all down, and to know that you were influenced by him and your playing was reflected by him is great, because he was, well, in any event, let's just start it up. I mean, when you were in the Bahamas, he always,
Yes.
I've done about 4 interviews with Black, and he talks about being a bebop drummer. I mean, that's what he was doing on the congas. He was playing, and I would like you to tell the audience about when the first time you saw him play, and then ultimately the technique or the advice that he gave you that helped you catapult you to become the percussionist that you are now.
Well, at the time, we were both married to Bahamian ladies. I think he's probably still married to his. I'm not married to mine, but we're good friends. This is not the ex-wife tale, okay?
Sure.
So I had just moved from Jamaica to the Bahamas, and I ran into Big Black, and I heard that he was like Fish Ray's brother, Fish Ray, who used to play one-string bass with Lord Flea. So we got to talking and we got to hanging out, and I said to him one day, I said, I've been playing around for a little bit and gathering bits and pieces of, stuff here, rhythms and ideas here and there, but I really don't have anything to hang it on. It's like I just have this bunch of stuff with no direction. So he called me. He said, come up to the house. And I went up there and I saw him with these 3 drums set up. He had them custom built, and he had goat skin on them, contrary to what you'd expect on drums of that size. So the first thing I noticed is that he sets up left-handed, so to speak, the opposite from most drummers who keep their lowest drum to the right. He had it to the left. So I'm standing up across the way from him, and he's playing stuff, and he said, what you should do is, he said, all I can tell you is think of it like you're playing a piano, and like you're holding your chords with your left hand and you're doing your fancy stuff with your right.
Mm-hmm.
When he said that to me, it's like Paul on the way to Tarsus. I said, oh, okay. I said, okay, at least I have something, an idea, a direction in which to go. So, and that's how I turned my drums around that day, and started working on it. And what will come out is like, I don't know if you'd call it a style, or it's just the way I play.
No, it is really amazing because Black has a really, he was born in the south of our country. You were obviously from Jamaica. He was from Georgia, and then he went down there. And I'll tell you, he tells me a lot of heavy things, and a lot of people going to New York and just trying to fit in as a younger cat. And being kind of ostracized by some of the Titans, and because they were really insecure. They could not fathom that somebody Max Roach was sitting down, and a guy brought a tape over, and he said, you're gonna really like this guy, Big Black, and so they sat down, had a beer, and then Roach was like, how many drummers are on this? And the guy's like, it's just one drummer, and he threw the guy, and Roach threw the guy out of his house. Because he and every time they tried to play after that, Max, anytime Black showed up at an event or a concert, he would purposely play these offbeat rhythms to try to throw Black off, and he could never do it. But my question is Larry, do you think that because he was giving you that sort of play the rhythm, play the bass line in your left, and then go off and improvise with the other hand? Do you think that gave you sort of an introduction into jazz?
Well, actually, I was a bebop hideaway before that.
Ah, bebop hideaway. I love it. Go ahead.
See, what happened is that in Jamaica at the time, this is a time before there's anything like ska or rocksteady or reggae. So you wanted to play at the highest level that you saw around you. And the highest level I saw was guys like Cecil Lloyd, Monty Alexander, who had by this time emigrated to the States, Tommy McCook, Roland Alfonso, all these guys who were in the Scatolites. And to play that kind of music, they were playing that in the hotel groups. You know, everybody had a hotel gig, and that's what you aimed for. And I was always into bebop. I stumbled onto Candido's Thousand Finger Man very early, and that cured me of the idea that I wanted to play bongos. he just frightened the shit out of me, so to speak, you know. And so I concentrated on congas, and what I wanted to do was to take the indigenous Jamaican rhythms from their natural setting on whatever instrument it was played on, whether it was the burro drum, the rasta drum, or whatever, and transfer those same rhythms to the congas, because that's what I wanted to play. I wanted to play congas. That's what was in my head. So that's what I have been trying to do all this time, is to play the traditional stuff from my point of view with this different sound, and play it in such a manner that the people, whoever is listening, all the purists, you know, don't notice that it's not on the drum that it's quotation marks supposed to be on.
I completely understand.
And I think that's pretty much the story of my drumming life.
Hey, you know, talking to Larry McDonald here, just an incredible, a legendary percussionist. Can you talk? So much of music today is there's just so much production, and then there's so much electronicization, and there's so much, very little of it is what was what it was really intended to do. Is when you were coming up, which was really more of a communication, a language, a magic. And I wanted you to talk about the first time that it really dawned on you that the music, people just go now to music shows and they sit there and they listen, and they go to see their pop hits, but you know how the transcendent quality of that music. And I was hoping you could share a story when you were younger, when it really dawned on you that people could be really moved by what you were playing.
Oh, wow. Okay, the earliest time that I realized this, first of all, when I decided that I wanted to play, like, this was what I wanted to devote the rest of my life to. You know, I couldn't tell my family that that's what I was going to do. So I told them I was going to over to Kingston to spend the holiday with the other side of my family. And the next time they saw me was like a few years later when I was passing through with the Carlos Malcolm Band doing a show. Well, during that time, I used to practice I practiced when the last person in the house left for work or school, and I'd finish when the crankiest one came home. Okay? And I'd eat if I remember, because I was starting late, and I was just consumed with this idea. I was self-taught. I didn't know how to get what out of the drum, but I was fighting it with everything that I had. So I had me a little technique now and could play a little rhythm, and the first thing I wanted to play was the earliest rhythm I can remember, which is the Jonkunu rhythm from up in the Portmore area. So it was Christmas morning, and I took the drum I went across the street and sat on the wall of my friend's house. And my younger brother came out. So I started playing this Jonquil rhythm, and he started dancing. This is my younger brother, Tony. And we lived at a crossroads. And I'm playing and he's dancing. And when I looked up, the crossroads was like full of people. I had never, been out there like that in front of anybody. I actually hadn't played with any bands or anything yet. I was just practicing like 8 hours a day for like 10 and a half months. And this is what I found myself into, with everybody stand up there, everybody is just focused on me. And I tell you, it kind of scared me a little bit, because I realized then that the power that the drum had or could have over people. I mean, I'm seeing my friends who know me all my life standing up there with their mouths hanging open, and I know that I really can't play anything. I really don't know anything yet.
Right.
And it kind of humbled me a bit. I took the drum up, and me and my brother went back inside, and they stood up out on the crossroads, for quite a while before they dispersed. I said, "Wow!" And this is before I even played with a band. I was just creeping at the time.
I think it's just so remarkable because, I mean, you basically were practicing inside, and this was the first time you went into public to really just kind of just do it.
Yeah. No, well, it was Christmas morning, and, I just was feeling good, and I've been practicing every day. So I just took the drum out on the street and sat up and started playing, and my brother started dancing, and wow. I'm saying, is this what I have to look forward to?
I'll tell you, you
and
gave
a voice way in the back says,
I mean, what
yes.
a great stocking stuffer that would have been for me to see you playing. I mean, you're friends with their mouths open. I know that feeling where your peers they think they know you, and then they see you doing something that has taken a lot of work, but then there's also a lot of genius involved, and their mouths just hit the floor. And we have a lot of tunes to play for Larry McDonald. So we have a game on this program, Larry, called Name That Tune. We're going to play this, and then we'll come back and break it down, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, Jake.
That's the strangest man I've seen. That's because he's a Rastaman, having the mark of a Nazarene. That's because he's a Rastaman. He carries a prophetical message. That's because he's a Rastaman, warning out of time and out of age. That's because he's a Rastaman. The Rasta come from Zion, Rastaman a lion. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Drink. Rasta come from Zion, Rastaman a lion. Him Irish. Remember Jeremiah, children. He was a Rastaman. Or even Isaiah. He was a Rastaman. Moses in the pit of mud. He was a Rastaman. Trotting from Bozrah with his garment dipped in blood. He was a Rastaman. Oh, Dre, all I want. The Rastaman come from Zion. What a strange, what a dream, what a righteous. The Rastaman come from Zion. What a dream, come full one. The Rastaman come from Zion. What a dream, black, dreadlock one. The Rastaman come from Zion. Lightning. 7 years of famine for 7 years of plenty. It's like 2 grains of wheat for 1 bale of barley.
music on the Jake Feinberg Show, brought to you by the Amity Foundation, Circle Tree Ranch, since 1981, an internationally acclaimed, dynamic, and innovative teaching community engaged in human services, social, and environmental justice, is offering the Awakening the Dreamer Symposium Monday, December 1st from 1 to 5 p.m. at their East Side campus, which is 10500 East Tancaverde Road. Learn and engage for a spiritually fulfilling, environmentally sustainable, and socially just human presence on Earth. Visit www.patchmom.org. All right, Mr. McDonald, can you name that tune?
That's I think that's Bunny Wailer, right?
That is exactly right. The Rastaman. Very good, Larry. Now, at that point, can you talk about? You can hear these tasty little colors and fills that you're doing, but whether it was Bunny or whether it was even going back to these cats that you were playing with early on, but the Jamaican cats, the reggae cats, what did they love about your playing?
What I think they liked most was that I had the nuts to want to play congas in this whole thing, and like I just wouldn't be the night. You see, it's back then, you would be allowed on the bandstand if you could play. If you couldn't play, you'd be invited to leave and come back at such a time as you could handle the material.
Right. Right.
So, because you know how stringent like jazz musicians can be about playing the tradition and doing the right thing and all that. So that record that you just played, that changed. That was after the whole like mindset had changed, and Bob had by then come on, and I think the Wailers might have broken up or tempered with whatever he had gone to America, but it was like a whole different thing came in, because everybody before it became reggae, it was ska.
Mm-hmm.
And if you haven't seen it yet, you should try and see this movie that's going around called Legends of Ska, because it has all the greats in it. And everybody was trying to fit this new chunky rhythm with these crazy bebop solos on top of it. Everybody is still trying to get their head around it. The Scatterlights themselves, which is the greatest, or probably the only real ska band ever, they broke up for 19 years and reformed at the 1983 Sunsplash, which I was lucky enough to be at because I was at Gil Scott Heron at the time, and we played Sunsplash 83.
Yes.
Yes. And I always hope, it was my fondest wish that after being away for 10 years, if I ever went back with a band to Jamaica, I wanted it to be a really kick-ass band. And I did that,
No, I want you to go back for something. This is because you are trying to articulate a very kind of intricate thing that I've always been fascinated about. That Black-Hearted Man, Bunny Wailer, was from like 1976. And so You're talking about was when they were trying to put these bebop solos or these complex jazz chords over the top of it. I mean, it just seemed like there was less space to operate. But could you talk about this? What was there before? Was it just more open space in the music to operate? I mean, I'm a non-musician, but to me, this is the intoxicating.
Okay, you mean more open space in the Jamaican version of it, or what we were playing before then?
Exactly. No,
because what we were playing before then was anything that you all were playing up here. Is basically, and then when the recording industry started in Jamaica, and we started to record our own music, you know, the influence, the island influence upon the music from out here ended up being ska. But all these musicians were already accomplished jazz musicians. And they would be called into the studios to record with everybody because they could read. It was mono at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody wanted to be the one to have to go to cause the tune to start over, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the jazz musicians could read. They could chart it in a flash. So everybody was there playing on this chunky rhythm. And when it's time for a solo, they soloed like they used to solo.
Right. Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And you go back and you listen to like some of the old ska records these days. You might hear a clinker in there. But 9 times out of 10, that was because the cut with the clinker was the best cut of all. It had the best feeling. And it was mono, so you couldn't just go and scratch it out, overdub it, and play it again. So they made a conscious decision to let it go with that little one imperfection because it was the best cut.
Wow. So you had at that point, I mean, when did you actually, this is the better question. Can you put me back in a time in Kingston and talk about the accessibility that you had to some of these poets like Bob and Peter Tosh, you know, and talk about their leadership styles. I mean, you're really the first cat I've been able to talk to from Jamaica. It's so, I mean, I thought I was going to be Monty, but you know, Monty's hard to come by, you know, and I would like you to talk about some of those guys. You said you had the nuts to play that stuff, but those guys also had the confidence in you to get you on the bandstand. And I just wanted you to talk. Those guys definitely had unorthodox leadership styles, and I just thought you could talk to a little bit about what they brought to the table and how they helped everybody's, you know, raise their performance level.
Well, okay, I can speak about me.
Sure.
How I got to be like on the hotel circuit and to be playing with all these, to use a Jamaican word, old Jamaican word, to play with all these guinea gogs. My friend Cecil Lloyd had just come back from the States to put together a band to open the Runaway Bay Hotel. And he didn't know that I was playing, because when he left, that was the furthest thing from anybody's mind. And he came back, and I was playing at the Bournemouth Club. And he came and he saw me and he said, "Wow, I didn't know you were playing. I came down to put this band together, but everybody already knows how much you're getting and the whole thing, you know, and I wish I could have taken you." I said, "Okay, maybe next time." Because I wasn't pushing it, because like I didn't know if I really had all that is required. I hope so, you know, and I'm a fast learner. So the next day I came home and they said, "This gentleman came to the house and he wants you to come to Runaway Bay tonight. You're to bring your drum and bring some clothes because you'll be down there for a minute." And I came and we rehearsed the band, and we all lived in the same, in this big house. And every morning, people wanted to be the first to get up to go out behind the house to practice. You know, you didn't want to be the last one out there. Everybody practiced their part, and So a lot of the stuff that I learned, because I'm not a trained musician. A lot of the stuff I learned, I picked up from these guys. Cecil Lloyd was like really, really tremendous player, and he unfortunately he didn't like ska. A lot of people didn't like it.
Mm-hmm.
But that didn't stop it from becoming popular. So Cecil, it went on until I became part of the Playboy trio years later with Cecil Lloyd, the great Cloet Johnson on bass, and myself. That was the Playboy Jamaica trio for a couple of years.
Wow.
And then I left and went to Mexico for 2 years. It's funny, when I left, Rocksteady had just started. When I came back from 67, I came back in 69, it was reggae.
Mm-hmm.
So I missed recording a whole era of the music. But then when I came back, I had more tools, and I pretty much knew much better what I wanted to do. And I had this whole field called reggae that was just really blossoming, and by virtue of the fact that I was one of the few percussionists who was constantly playing, constantly trying to insert the instrument into wherever I could. I get called for these sessions, that then I end up doing the jazz sessions on Sundays with all these guys. So, I had a little bit of a rep as somebody who could play. I didn't think so yet. It's just about maybe 10 years ago that I said, well, maybe I can play a little bit, because it's seen me through all these gigs and this whole thing. So, okay, accept the fact that you're okay at least.
Yeah, you're okay, man. You're pretty good. You're pretty good. No, but can you just for the audience, for me, what was the change playing congas between ska and burgeoning reggae? I mean, how much of an adjustment was that? Was it a feel thing? I mean, this is so intoxicating, because I hate all the labels and barriers that have gone up in music. But at least in reggae, there was to me, you were right there at that time when reggae came into full bloom. How difficult, what was the transition like? How did it change from ska to reggae?
Well, it changed from ska first to rocksteady.
Mm-hmm.
And that change was affected by a guitar player named Lynn Tate and a singer named Hopton Lewis. Hopton brought a track into the studio one day, and the rhythm, the ska, it just wouldn't sit on the rhythm. And Lynn Tate, who was Trinidadian, by the way, the late great Lynn Tate, he said, okay, cut the rhythm in half.
Mm.
And he cut it in half, and it just sat down on the tune like that. And Rocksteady was born. And I wasn't home for the development of it for those 2 years before it changed to reggae. When I came back, see, the greatest thing with Rocksteady is that a lack of horns. The rhythm section started to get a lot of work, not so much the horns.
Right.
It was cooler for the producers. It was less money, they had to put out. And
it became
reggae because of the experimentation of a couple of studio people. Chief among them, I think, was Lee Scratch Perry. who I still have to tour with to this day.
That's beautiful. Oh, that's great.
You know, he there were two songs that he was he sang one and he produced the other. And there are 2 or 3 songs that they're debating as to which was the first reggae tune. The first one was People Funny Boy that Lee Scrap sang. The other one was Long Shot by a group called the Pioneers that he produced. And the third tune was No More Heartaches by a group called Belltones, I think, or the Harry J Studios. And those were the first. Those were the earliest evidence of the change from rocksteady to reggae.
So let's, we got a lot, my God, Larry McDonald blowing my mind. I hope everybody's enjoying this on Power Talk 1210, high above the Parisi Palace here. We got another tune here, a little bit fast forward, but, you know, this is the way it's going. So, again, Larry, hang in there, and we'll come back and break it down, okay?
Oh, I hope I know the tune.
I think you will.
Okay.
Where you trying to run to? Don't you even know that you're still gonna be you? Every place you go, you can change your name and address. That's what a lot of people say. But the cards that deal you are the ones you gotta play. Hey, no, you can't get away. No, you can't get away. No, you can't get away from you. You can change from ball to cornrow, or the other way around. And you can live up on a mountain, or in a cave deep underground. You make so many changes that you fool the FBI, but you recognize the suspect as someone you can't leave behind. Hey, no, you can't get away. 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 No, you can't get away from you.
Music on the Jake Feinberg Show, sponsored in part by Stereo Hospital, with over 40 years of experience repairing all types of home audio equipment, from vintage table radios to digital surround sound. At 4040 Speedway inside Metronome Music, it's the place to take your turntable, CD player, tape deck, heck, just about anything to do with your stereo. Call 722-4610, and we appreciate their support. Before we get into the Name That Tune, Larry, I wanted to introduce a dear friend of the program, and a guy that has the greatest, the best and tastiest goat and oxtail and Jamaican restaurant in Tucson. I want to introduce D. D, welcome, and you have a question for Larry. Go ahead.
Hey, Larry, how's it going?
All right, man. What's up?
No, not much, man. Everything good?
Yeah, man. Everything cool.
Cool, man.
I don't know how I end up on this program, but here I am.
I say, come on. So they always ask me, say, oh, me come from so far, I end up at Tucson, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I just.
I was out in Arizona. I did an album with a metal band that's based out in Arizona, you know, called Soulfly.
Soulfly?
Max Cavalaro.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I did an album. I was out there for a while, did an album with him.
Oh, okay.
Heavy metal, Congress.
Oh, heavy metal. Oh, okay. So, up in Phoenix?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, man. So I in a Tucson with them, man. So So like how you used to, hang out with Bunny Wheel and them man. So what was the food like, back in those days, to compare with the music and, stuff like that, cause, me still young same, so we never really, we don't know what live same way,
Well, this how far back you wanna go with that?
Well, as far as me born in the 80s, so anyway far from that, me a 80s man, so.
Oh, you want youth?
Yeah. Yeah, man.
Yeah. Well, everybody used to travel with their cook at one time,
Oh, okay.
Bob used to travel with Bob, Bunny, Peter. Everybody used to travel with their cook. Like early 80s, I came up here in 73, and I was out on the West Coast with Taj Mahal from 74 until about 79, and I joined Gil Scott Heron in 81. But those days, everybody, the reggae wasn't so strong up here. It was just getting a hold, But every man used to travel with him cook.
Oh, okay.
Every man used to travel with his cook.
I'm obsessed, Larry. I mean, leading up to this interview, I was eating as much goat and oxtail as possible. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
D, I want to just explain something to you, Larry. Like, I mean, this guy, he had the most intoxicating Jamaican food. It was a streetcar. I mean, just on the side of the road, and the man has now built, I mean, the finest Jamaican restaurant in Tucson. I'm so proud of him. He's got pictures all over of Bob, and just that tradition and the mixing of. I mean, you can go in the United States and there's I mean, food is a direct correlation to the spiritual and the music and the times, and I just wanted him to come in and talk to you a little bit about that.
Yeah.
But, it's a beautiful thing to see people pushing, as I am, to reach their true nature, just the way you were. I mean, that to me is the most humbling thing. But before we veer off too far, I really, I love the album, every album you did with Mr. Gil Scott Heron. I love, and that cat, what a genius. I read a quote where you said, "I'm not going to touch genius anything like that anytime the rest of my life." And I just,
it's the closest I've come, I think.
How did you, tell me how you met Gil, and then just the experience of playing with a poet genius like that.
Okay. Well, I had a group out on the West Coast called Rhythm, a reggae group back in the day, and we did an album in a studio in Santa Monica that turned out to be Gil's engineer and producer, Malcolm Cecil, owned the studio. So that was his first experience of reggae, a whole album in his studio. So he went and told Gil, whose father was Jamaican, whose father was a great footballer, as you say, soccer player, one of the greats. He was playing for Celtic in Scotland in 1954. So, he had to be on the ball. So he went and told Gil, well, look, everybody is out here messing with this reggae. At least your father is Jamaican. Why don't you do some reggae? Gil said, man, I don't know nothing about this reggae thing. But Malcolm is also a bass player and a keyboard player. He used to play bass with Ernest Rangelin, like back in 1962.
Malcolm, what was his full name? Malcolm?
Yeah, Malcolm Cecil.
Oh, Malcolm. Okay.
When Ernest was in Britain, and he told him what to play. He said, "Just do this, because I know where to go to make it reggae." So he called me in, and I told Gil this story. After I said, when he put the tune up, I almost laughed because it sounded just like how I thought a bunch of brothers would sound if they attacked reggae from this side. I didn't tell him then.
This
I
is
didn't tell him
unreal.
then because I wanted to finish the session and get paid on the whole thing. You know, I didn't know how his head was. So I did the tune, put my stuff on it, and it needed a guitar, and I called one of Jamaica's better-known performers, Ken Lazarus, to put the two guitar parts on there. And then Gil asked me to join the band on a tour. This is in 1981, and I spent the next 28 years, you know, doing that. So even though I hadn't been playing reggae all this time as my main thing, reggae was what brought me to both to this circumstance and to the Taj Mahal circumstance.
Yeah,
You know,
this is it. Larry, we are definitely going to be cooking on a part 2, man, because we have barely scratched the surface on your career. I don't want to rush through any of this stuff. I mean,
Oh wow!
well, I think you kind of have to agree with that. We got another tune here while we're live on Power Talk 1210.
But before you jump, let me talk about that, a little bit about that tune, right? That you just played. That was No Exit from the.
That's right. Go ahead.
From. But No Exit from the
Moving Target.
Moving Target album. That was the second one that I helped with the production of that, with the phrasing of the horn parts and the whole thing. And I don't think there's a recording of that since we played it. But the first Storm Music from the Reflections album, I think it's on the Black Wax movie.
Right.
So if you actually want to see Gil doing some reggae, it's on the Black Wax album.
I want to. This is. We'll keep breaking that down. Let's listen to this piece of music and then we'll come back.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm not sure anymore just how it happened before. The places that I knew were sunny and blue. I can feel it deep inside, this black nigger's pride. I have no fear when I say, and I say it every day, every nigger is a star. Every nigger is a star. Who will deny that you and I and every nigger is a star? I have walked the streets alone. 20 years I've been on my own. To be hated and despised, no one to sympathize. But there's one great thing I know, you can say I told you so. We've got a bright place in the sun, where there's love for everyone, and every nigger is a star.
Music on the Jake Feinberg Show, brought to you by Abbott Taylor Jewelers, 6383 East Grant Road in Tucson, Arizona. One of a kind, just like you. Best jewelry in town, Abbott Taylor Jewelers, and we're eternally grateful for his support. All right, brother, you're 2 for 2. What's that one?
That was Boris Gardner from the soundtrack of the movie Every Nigger is a Star. It's a Calvin Lockhart movie that, as they would say today, went straight to DVD.
I got to tell you, when I saw your credits on All Music, I said, this guy was in the most sly pocket of music. I mean, I've never even seen this on vinyl. I never even knew about this cat Gardner, but man, you know, I mean, coming out.
I'm wondering.
Go ahead.
I'm wondering how you got that.
Well, it's called YouTube. It's just
Well, don't tell me, okay?
Yeah, no.
Don't tell me. You might have to kill me.
Yeah,
Don't
exactly.
tell me.
No. I mean, this is the crux of it is, Larry. As we wrap up, and we have about 8 minutes left here, but can you just talk about the story, just sort of the eternal. I hate to use the word racism, but in your mind, have we evolved as a people? Do we understand that there really isn't any race? Do we understand any of that stuff? Or have we gone backward? I mean, I don't need to. You're a pretty smart cat, and I look at it and I say, just so many great African artists and politicians and leaders, and I just wonder about your belief in humanity and whether we are moving forward as it relates to just treating people as people.
Well, I don't know whether it's forward or backward. What I know is that the business that I'm involved in, the business of music, was actually one of the first institutions to embrace people of all origins. The criterion was, if you can cut it, you can cut them in here and play. I don't care if you're green.
Right.
So it's like Lenny Tristano. Lenny Tristano could play. You couldn't deny all that. I mean, all these. You see, Bebop showed me all that. Bebop taught me all that. Bebop taught me that 1 and 1 does not necessarily end up being 2. It might be 11.
Exactly. I dig. I dig.
So you got to think on your feet, and it's like the note or the beat you play in itself is not wrong. What makes it right or wrong is the one that follows it.
That's right. Wow.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know. It's kind of late in the day for this attitude to be still out there. You know?
No, I think I agree. Go ahead.
It's to a degree, it's kind of annoying. I thought we could get rid of that and just go ahead on and play. And musicians were the first people I know that it would embrace everybody on the strength of what you could do, not what you look like, not what anybody said about you, or none of that. If you could play, you could come on up in here, and you were welcome.
It seems it seems like if you're a talented athlete and you make millions of dollars for lots of very rich people, then you're accepted, I mean, it's money.
Yeah.
To me, it's like, this was, I just want to give an opportunity for Dee to ask you one more question. Go ahead, man.
So compared to the music, like back in the day, right?
Yeah.
Compared to what's going on, it's a big change, right?
Yeah, it's like the change was dance hall.
Oh, okay. Oh, the change was dance hall.
Yeah, when it went to dance hall, you see a whole lot of stuff went down at the same time. Like there's a time when anybody with a keyboard, a sampler, and a tape recorder could put out a record. Because the technology evolved to the point where, you could cover all your mistakes. You could fix it in the mix, as they'd say, as the saying goes. But dance hall, it kind of drove itself into a dead end. With the kind of lyrics and the kind of stuff that they were talking about. And they're trying to climb down off of that. Now I'm bringing it back to where it was where the music was before, where you had to like think about the stuff that you were saying, and you know, you didn't just go in and do a bunch of stuff and put it together afterwards. And
Right.
you know, when I say, I just, somebody just told me that Sean Paul did an album with Mark Anthony.
Mm-hmm.
I say, wow, okay. I say, you know, so it's changing on a certain level, but basically the attitude that people still have, you know, people still try to put you in a kind of box, and you know, people be talking about thinking outside the box. My question is, what is a box?
Right. That's right.
Right.
You know, I want to ask you to follow up. You know, we know there are some really talented younger reggae artists. If you had any advice for them as it relates to just using the resources that they have inside of them, you know, is it more of like, what would you tell them in today's world where you have access to everything at your fingertips? You know, what would you give them? What kind of advice would you give them? 2 minutes.
It would be the same advice that I followed when none of this was around. The stuff that you believe in, you know, hang on to it. If you think it's right, it probably is correct. You know, don't just abandon your dream or abandon your goal because somebody over there did something that you think might be, you know, it might be what it is. It's just, you just have to as we say, stand firm. You know, you just have to stand firm.
Hold your ground, you know?
Yeah, man.
Well, Larry McDonald, I'll be in touch to do set up part 2 with you, man. But you rocked out. Thank you for making our day.
And before you go, Jake.
Sure, bud.
I just wanna thank you. Like the music that you dug up and all that stuff. You know, most people don't go to the trouble to find stuff like that and ask you questions like you asked. And they say, good question make a good interview, right?
Hey,
so,
listen, man, I'm on my way up, and I'm on your shoulders, man. Thank you for making that music, and I'll talk to you soon, Larry. Thank you so much for being part of the program.
And thanks for having me, Jake.
All right, brother.
And call me anytime.
All right,
we can hook it up.
Thank you, man.
Okay.
All right.
Bye.
All right.
We'll be back. Bye-bye.
I've been around the world a few times, but I don't understand. I just like to play the blues. It's not all the money that I want. I just like to play the blues. And I like for everybody to get together and all of us play the blues. Let's have a good time. Because blues is where it's at. I'm telling you, I love it. I can't help but play it. So when you wake up in the morning,
You're a gig.
and ain't got no money, or no gig, whatever you call it, you ain't got nothing but the blues no way, baby. Or either your old lady gonna do yagging you and arguing with you, telling you want you to get up and do something. And go to the steel mill, you know you're gonna sing that music in the blues too. So sometimes you really don't know what to do. And when you get worried, all you can do is reach and grab your harmonica and try to play the blues a little bit. Here's the blues.
Here we go.
Why not give us a call now and join in the discussion?